Hello guys, welcome back to our channel LifeLiyo. In this video, you are going to learn about for loop in Python. We know that we have three types of iteration or loop statements in Python. That is while loop, for loop, nested loop. In the previous lecture or previous video, we have seen about the while loop. I'll provide the link in the iCard. And in this video, we are going to learn about the for loop. What is for loop in Python? So for loop in Python is used to iterate, that is used to repeat over the items of any sequence. So what are the meaning of sequence? Basically, sequential elements are nothing but the lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries. So whenever we want to iterate over these type of elements, that is group of elements or sequential elements, then we have to use a concept called for loop. Yes, it is helpful in iterating on the lists or tuples or any similar things. So along with these lists or tuples, it is also helpful in iterating on the indices of a list. That is, instead of going through the entire list at a time, we can go through the respective indices. What are these indices mean? Like these indices are nothing but the indexes in arrays in C programming, which you are going to learn in the future. Now let us look into the syntax. The syntax is for space iterating variable, that is any helping variable like I, J, K, that is the any variable which is going to be repeated. So where it is going to be repeated? In sequence or range. So you know that sequence. A sequence is nothing but the group of elements. So such as lists or tuples. Then what about the range? Range means it is nothing but a number of elements in a particular period of given numbers. So what are there? We are going to learn next, and then whenever the condition satisfies, the statements will be executed. This is range. What is this range in Python? So when using for loops in Python, the range function is pretty useful to specify how many times, that is the number of times the loop should be executed. For example, if you want to execute your loop for some 5 times, then this range function is useful. Then the function yields a sequence of numbers, that is we can generate a sequence of numbers using the range function. For example, if you are given the 5 means it may start from the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means these are the sequence of numbers that have been generated with the help of the range function. So when called with one argument, say n, it creates a sequence of numbers from 0 to n minus 1. That is what I took. If I take the value as 5, it creates the values from the 0 to 4. That is n minus 1. If you take the n as 5, n minus 1 is 4. Syntax. Range follows the 3 parameters. That is start, stop and step size. So the start, stop, step size are most important ones. For example, what is start? Start means starting value of the range. So it is an optional one. So if you do not define that stop, by default it is going to consider it as the 0. Stop. So stop is nothing but ending value. So how many values it have to be considered? That is ending value. If you take the stop value as n, then the ending value is n minus 1. That's why we say that when we take the argument of n, then it creates a sequence of numbers from 0 to n minus 1. That means if 5 is my number, it will be ended at the 5 minus 1, 4 only. So then ending is n minus 1. It is compulsory. Start is optional. Stop is compulsory. Step size. So the step size defines the number of steps to be incremented after each number in the sequence. Here if you observe that if I give only 5, then it incremented from 0 to 1. The difference is 1. 1 to 2, 1. 2 to 3, 1. 3 to 4, 1. Here the step size is 1. So, if you want to change this step size, you can use this step size. It is also optional. If you don't define the step size, by default it is going to consider the only 1 as the step size. Examples of range. If I take the range of 5, so if you take only one parameter, this parameter is stop parameter, because start and another one is the step size. Both are optional. So if I give the 5, so it is going to print from the 0 to n minus 1. So what is 0? What is the n minus 1? N minus 1 means n. The n value is nothing but stop value. So 0 to 5 minus 1. That is 0 to 4. That's why 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, in the range function, if you pass two parameters, then the first one will be treated as the start and the second one will be treated as the stop. That means if you take the two parameters, the first one is the start, second one is the stop. So it starts at the 1 and stops at the 5 minus 1, because whatever the stop value you consider, the range is going to take up to stop minus 1 only. So started at 1, 2, 3, 4. It will not going to accept 5 because stop minus 1 is 5 minus 1, 4. Next, range of 1, 20, 2. What is this 1, 20, 2? Yes, first one is the start, second one is the stop, and third one is the step size. So this step size defines that how many steps have to be incremented after each iteration. So it have to start at the 1 and end at the 20. That means 20 minus 1, 19. And what is the step size? 2. That is how many steps it have to increment after every iteration? 2. So the started one is the 1. Then after 1, 2 steps have to be incremented. That's why it gave the 3. From there 2 steps. 5. From there 2 steps. 7. Like that it will go up to the 19. Whenever it reaches to 19, then place 2. That is 2 steps means 21. So 21 is not the stop value. So it stops up to printing the 1 to 19 with a difference of the 2. Here the step size also accepts the negative numbers. But when it is going to accept the negative numbers, the start size should be more, or start size should be bigger than the stop size, because negative means decrementing of the number of values. So it should be started the 20 and it have to end at the 3. So 20. So it started at 20. 20 minus 2, 18. Then 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6. And then 4. So this is the range function. Let us look into the example. Program to print 1 to n using per. So I have to take an n value, int of input of enter n value. So that is I am entering the n value and I am typecasting it to the integer, because by default it is going to consider it into the string. Now after taking that, I am going to take an iteration variable, that is from where it have to be started. I value for I in range of n, print I. So if you consider that n value as 5, then I value is 0. I value starting at the 0. So first time the I value is 0, Is it in the range? What is the range of n? That is range of 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I am saving this one. Look at here, 0 to 4. So first I value, sum 0, 0 printed, then iteration plus, then it moves to the 1, then again 2, then 3, then 4. So it prints the all the I values. But our program is programmed to print from 1 to n. To print from 1 to n, we have to take the starting value as 1, and if you take the n, it is going to accept only up to the n minus 1. So at that moment, we have to use the n plus 1. That is, it will treat it as the 1, 6. 1, 6 means it will start at the 1, then 2, 3, 4 and 5. So if you save this one, if you run here, enter as the 6. Yes, 1 to 6 values has been printed. So this I is an iterator variable, and then this one range is a function that how many times a loop should be iterated. So here if you define 1, 6, it is going to iterate 6 times. Then if we take 2 as the increment size, so 1, after that 3, then after that 5. So this 3 will be printed because starting at 1 and ending at 5 plus 1, 6. 6 minus 1, 5. So after 5 it is not going to be executed. So 6, yes, 1, 3, 5. So this is a for loop printing 1 to n numbers. So for the same thing we can do that sum of n numbers. So I will take that. Program to find sum of n numbers using for loop. So a number A, so input, enter a value I equal to 0, that is I starting should be 0, for I in range of 1, n, sorry, a plus 1. So it should be started at the 1 and ending at the a plus 1. So if you treat that a plus 1, then it is going to treat it as the a only. So what I am going to do is I have to do that sum equal to sum plus I. That is the I value from the range, and it is going to be added to the sum. By default, initially I have to take the sum. I am taking as the sum equal to 0. Now, after all the things, what I am going to do? I am going to print the sum is sum. So, whenever we take the a value as 5, so range of 1, 5 plus 1, 6. So it is going to treat it as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now sum is for the first iteration 1. So sum is 0 plus 1. So 1. It is going to be stored in this sum. Then after that, again for the second iteration, sum is 1 plus the number I is 2, that is 3. Like that it is going to store all the values. Look at here, sum of 5, first for 1 to 5 is the 15. This is sum of n natural numbers using for loop. So let us see the flowchart for loop. First, you have to take the any element in the sequence or in the range. So whether it verified that all the elements have been completed, that is the last element completed? No. If the last element is not completed in the list or a sequence or a tuple or from the any range, then the body of for loop will be executed. Then again, same thing. Last element completed in the sequence or range? No. Body of the for loop will be executed. Like that it will face until the last element will be completed. Whenever all the elements have been completed successfully, yes, then it exits the loop and remaining statements in the program will be executed. This is the flowchart for loop. Now let us take the example of the sequence also, that is any list or tuple. Program to print elements of list using for loop. So I will take a list A of 9, 25, P, Sam 98.5. So I am taking the iteration variable I equal to 0 for I in A, that is for I iteration variable in the list A. Then I am going to print the I. So whenever the I first iteration, the I is going to be assigned to the 9. So 9 will be printed. In the second iteration, that is the last element completed in this list? No. So in the second iteration, I is going to be assigned with the 25. So 25 is going to be printed. Then again, third iteration, is this one the last element? No. 3 is going to be assigned to the I. I is going to be printed. So 98.5, if when it reaches to 98.5, is it the last element? Yes. So it is going to be assigned to the I and it is going to be printed and exits the loop because there are no more elements. So save this one. 10 dot. Look at here. So whenever the I value is taken, first iteration it consider the first element. So first time it have considered the 9. The second time it taken the 25. Third time 3. Fourth time the string Sam. And the fifth time 98.5. Whenever after the 5 elements completed, there are no more elements. That's why it exited. Next one. Here in Python, like same as a while, else is also be used with the for loop. But this else, when you use the else with the for loop, it is going to be executed only once. Only once. Because whenever all the iterations are completed in the respective sequence or in the range, then this else block is going to be executed. So the syntax is same like the for, but after all, whenever the iterating variable is in sequence, then statements will be executed. So whenever the whenever the iterating variable in sequence or range have been completed, then it comes to the iteration complete statement, that is else block. So is it compulsory to use else block in the Python for loop? No, it is purely optional. Let us take this one. I have a program to print elements of list using for loop. If I run this one, I am going to get the answer without any hassle. But if I want to make an else block also, that is else print all statements iterated. Example, I am taking as all statements iterated. That means, so whenever the I value is going to iterate all over the items, I value is going to be printed in the for loop because iteration variable is going to be in the same sequence. Whenever all the elements have been completed, then the else block will be executed. So save this, and if you run this one, yes, all the elements have been printed, and then At the end, it executed the all statements iterated. So this else block is an optional one which is going to be executed when all the iteration elements have been completed in a sequence or a range.